Oh, the queen is here.
My queen.
She's here, she's here. And it's time for me to help you guys understand what it takes to give this queen her crown.
You are my queen. Nothing will change that.
What's going on, YouTube? Pleasure here once again. This time at you again with some more Genshin Impact. And this time I want to talk to you guys about Hu Tao, right? Hu Tao's my favorite character, all right? If you haven't heard me say it before, I'll say it again for you. She is number one. Me and her share the same birthday. We got things in common. I love her. I just think I owe it to you guys to give you my due diligence to tell you different facts or different tips on how to build her, right? I have three big categories I wanted to touch on when it comes to being able to optimize this character, right? Granted, you know, because there's all kinds of guys going around, old guys, new guys, so on and so forth. But I wanted to kind of try and touch on some things I don't hear talked about enough or just asked about a lot. Let's get into it. And also too, I also wanted to let you guys know that I'm on the road to 1,000, all right? Road to 1,000 subscribers, specifically. I'm trying to get to 1,000 by March, you know. You guys have helped me out so much so far, and I'm grateful. And I would like to see if you guys can help me out a little bit more, because I'm trying to reach that milestone right there. And yeah, so if you guys like the content, definitely hit that subscribe button. All right, but let's get on to the baby. Let's get over to the girl Hu Tao right here, right? So as you know, she is coming next week, and a lot of people, since she's had a rerun, she's been around a while. A lot of people that do like her, that's been around for a while, have her, and they're starting to think, well, what should I do? Should I go for her C1 or should I go for her staff of Homa? Now I'll try and keep this explanation pretty short and sweet because this is my second recording actually, and you know, the last one I was reaching a half hour of just straight talking, and I was getting bored talking, so let's try and keep this nice and concise right here. So to make things simple, when it comes to the staff of Homa, right, that is going to give you more damage than C1 is going to give you. I mean, it does depend on the optimal use of how you use her, because you do have to jump cancel. If you're good at jump canceling, then Homa is definitely going to be a bigger DPS increase for you. But if you don't jump cancel at all, or you're really bad at it, or so on and so forth, yeah, maybe C1 might help you out there too. But for a rule of thumb, if you're good at the game, if you're good at controlling Hu Tao and your usage of canceling, then Homa is going to be the bigger damage increase. But on the other hand, C1 gives you a better ease of use, right? If it were me, I would choose C1. Why do I say that? Because I don't know if I would play Hu Tao as much as I do if I didn't have C1. This really comes down to opinion, but she's just more fun when she has her C1. You get the DPS increase, and the dash cancels are much easier to do, and it's much more fun to do, and it's quicker. If you don't mind jump canceling, then Homa is going to be the better pick for you. Especially with this weapon banner coming up, which is phenomenal. You know, that's just going to be the better pick. But in terms of, because remember guys, this is a game, so you want to have fun. And I think the fun factor comes with C1. So that's just my 2 cents right there. That's what I think. So do with the information what you will. So that's the first thing I want to touch on, right? Next thing I want to touch on, it's pretty big actually. I want to touch on the different teams that you played with Hu Tao, right? There's many different teams you can go with. Let's start off with the most common team, and that team is Double Hydro right here. So with Double Hydro, this is a very cohesive team where everybody's benefiting off everybody. You're getting Jilan and Xingqiu battering each other, which is great. They're dealing a lot of damage themselves, right? You have Zhongli, who's benefiting from the Hydro Resonance by getting a thicker shield because he has more HP, and his scaling go off of HP too, so there's that. And then you have Hu Tao, who obviously has benefits from the Hydro Resonance with the HP. Also too, with all the Hydro being applied, she's going to vaporize everything, which is beautiful, which is wonderful. Easiest team to use, really. Probably the most meta team. This is the #1 team. If you guys haven't heard about it, well, now you know. So now here's the Melt team, right? Melt team is going to be great because instead of doing double Hydro, so you don't have the Hydro Resonance anymore, but you are be able to get extra damage because you're now melting instead of vaporizing. And because Rosaria applies so much cryo, you're going to be able to get a lot of melts off, especially when you burst, right? And she's increasing your crit rate. And if you happen to have Ganyu and Elegy, then instead of Rosaria, you can use Ganyu and Elegy, and that's going to increase your DPS even more, especially against crowds and so on and so forth, right? So that's going to be awesome. So I actually used the Melt team for quite some time before Yelan came around. Then you have the Double Geo team. Double Geo team is also great. It was kind of the bread and butter team before we got access to all these new characters like Yelan and Toma and stuff like that and whatever, and Kazuha. But this right here, this was really the go-to team for Hu Tao for quite some time because you get a Geo Resonance and everything like that. So that is another option that you have if you happen to have Albedo and Zhongli. But here's the team I really want to talk about here. This team is the team that I use, right? This is the team I use when it comes to Hu Tao, right? For a few things, right? Now keep in mind, with this team, it sounds weird, but you're gonna have to use Sacrificial Sword on your Kazuha in order to pull this team off the way it needs to be pulled off. If you want to use Toma with it. If you want to use Amber, then it doesn't matter. But the thing is, if you use Amber, you do more damage, especially if you have Elegy. But it's a safer team when you have Toma shielding, protecting you, because you're completely letting go of defense when you use Amber, right? But let's talk about the Toma variation for now, right? Because not everybody has Elegy. So with Toma, you have them with Instructors, stack them with HP and enough energy recharge right there, right? Or you can do Noblesse if you don't want to do that, but that's what I do right there. I think that's going to be the most optimal. And what you do is you start the rotation off with Yelan, right? Yelan's, doesn't matter if you see 0 because Kazuha is going to be applying a good amount of the Hydro application, right? So you start with the Yelan, you E and your burst with her, right? She's going to apply all kinds of Hydro everywhere, right? This works best with a single target. You use Kazuha, use his E once right here, come down, use the burst, right? When he uses his burst, he should wipe off all the Hydro off of the enemy if it's a single target. If it's multiple targets, he's not going to wipe off all the Hydro because the Hydro swirls hit an AoE, so you're not going to be able to do that. But because Toma has his Instructors, it's still fine. And then here you come with Toma. He does his burst, he does his E. He's going to be able to get a Vaporize in there because Hydro's going to try to get reapplied one time on there, right? You use both. Pyro gets reapplied to the enemy. You get over to Kazuha. Since you have Sacrificial Sword, you should be able to E again. And then you use that press E in order to swirl Pyro one more time. And now Hu Tao is ready to go, dealing max damage. You got to do this quick too because you don't want Yelan's burst to disappear. But Hydro is going to still be applied, right? This works even better if you have a C2 Kazuha, of course, because Wailing is always going to give you an advantage. But Kazuha does enough at C0, so that's going to be a good amount of damage, and you're probably going to see the most optimal results when it comes to this right here. If you're able to pull this off, this is going to be competing or even surpassing the double Hydro team, right? So yeah, keep that in mind. So this right here, this team is great. I love it so much. But yeah, but that's when it comes to the Hu Tao team, right? And rotations. So the next thing I want to touch on is comes to builds, right? So now the thing is with builds, you have a decision to make, right? Do you use EM sands or do you use HP sands, right? In order to solve this, I do have a way in order to be able to, a good rule of thumb, and I'll be able to tell you which one you should do, right? I say if you have less than 100 EM, your sweet spot is 100 to 200 EM on Hu Tao, right? If you have less than 100 EM, the EM is so valuable at that point that it's better than crit damage, right? It's better than crit, all right? So you definitely want to be able to make sure that you have some EM, right? If you have none, then that's maybe we should start thinking about getting that EM sands, right? But also, another rule to keep in mind is you want to stay above 30k HP. If you have less than 30k HP, if you have 25, 26, 24k HP, you got to put the HP sands on. You got to do it. HP is great on Hu Tao because even though she doesn't directly scale with HP, she converts HP over into attack, and she has low base attack, so that attack transfer is phenomenal for her. She gets a bunch of attack from HP, so you want to make sure she gets that, because when it comes to crit rate, crit damage, all that good stuff, attack is the base that is coming off of. So if you have a weak base, a weak foundation, then your Hu Tao starts to fall apart. So you want to make sure you have at least 30k HP, right? If you can manage to have both 30k and above HP and above 100 EM, your Hu Tao is going to be doing numbers. My Hu Tao has 33 HP right now, 33k HP, and 177 EM. So she is doing numbers, right? My Hu Tao build is not that great in terms of everything. Her crit rate's a little bit low. You want it around 70%. And then, yeah, her crit damage is high to some and stuff like that. But there's room for improvement, right? But she still hits like a truck because she's able to do all these. Because she has those stats in order to hold her up. Because you can see a flower like this right here, and you can think, oh no, it didn't run into crit that much. But it has so much EM that that's extremely valuable on Hu Tao. So there's a few things that you want to be able to balance themselves. It's actually those 4 stats right there: crit rate, crit damage, HP, and EM, not in that order. Another thing you want to talk about when it comes to Hu Tao builds is her artifact set itself, right? Crimson or Shiminawa. Crimson is going to be number 1, right? All things considered, Crimson's going to do more damage, right? But Crimson sometimes isn't always the easiest to get. I mean, granted, it's in the strong box now, but a lot of people that might not have enough artifacts to throw in the strong box, or you don't want to farm the strong box. I mean, the Crimson Domain, and risk of getting Lava Walker. In terms of farming, I say you farm for Shiminawa. Even though Crimson is better, you farm for Shiminawa because that's the emblem domain, and you really want to farm there too, right? So, in terms of that, you farm for the emblem domain, get your Shiminawa pieces, your trash, you throw it in there to get some Crimson pieces. If you can build a Crimson piece from that, then you go with that. But otherwise, you go Shiminawa. Why? Because the thing with Shiminawa is still very strong. Matter of fact, Shiminawa a lot of times can output more damage on charge attacks than Crimson can, because that's what Shiminawa was investing in. But the reason why Crimson still comes out on top is because it tanks her burst damage, and burst damage is really good on Hu Tao. She nukes with that burst, right? So you do want a strong burst, so you do want Crimson overall for number 1, but Shiminawa is going to do tons of damage, and sometimes you might even realize that you prefer the Shiminawa set because of how much damage that those charge attacks are going to do, all right? So keep that in mind, right? So if you're thinking about what you're going to do, what should you farm it? Do not farm for Crimson, farm for Shiminawa, and use those trash pieces to throw in the strong box, all right? So that's another tip when it comes to that in terms of Hu Tao's builds. I mean, just real quick too, her second best weapon, I would say, is going to be Dragon's Bane. It's going to be Dragon's Bane over Deathmatch. The thing with Deathmatch is that it gives you crit rate, right? It gives you crit rate, but the passive isn't doing much for you, right? You're getting attack percent, which Who doesn't really care about attack percent because she has low base attack, right? So it just gets defense from it too. Defense you're not doing anything with, right? So Deathmatch passive isn't doing much for Hu Tao, just the crit rate, which is good, right? Which you do like the crit rate, but that's all it's doing. Whereas Dragon's Bane is increasing your damage when you're doing vape counts, which you're usually doing 90% of the time you're using Hu Tao, and it's giving you that precious EM. And then you can stack HP when it comes to the substats, right? So it definitely does put you in position to have a much better time with Hu Tao. So I always say Dragon's Bane over Deathmatch. But those are the 3 main things I want to talk about. I just want to talk about whether you get a C, what staff of Homa, what kind of teams you use, and the type of builds that you use with it, right? But just to drop a few minor facts for you guys that I did want to touch on. One thing that you do want to keep in mind too when it comes to building teams around Hu Tao, remember this. A lot of people forget it. They don't really bring it up, but Hu Tao does give your team crit rate when her E duration is done, right? A lot of people think about that, which is why when it comes to my Yelan, she only has about like 60 something crit rate, but the thing is she gets 12% crit rate from Hu Tao. So it's actually in the 70s a lot of times when I'm using, or even 80, depends on what pieces I'm using. That's the thing when it comes to that. She's gonna buff up crit rate right there, so keep that in mind when you're building your team around, so you know that they're gonna be able to get crit rate from her. Dash canceling and jump canceling. Now, if you say you have received one, you're still gonna have to, I've said this before in a different video, but you're still going to have to jump cancel every once in a while. Because you might get frustrated sometimes. You dash, you charge attack 3 times, you dash cancel. All of a sudden, one of those times, she just doesn't dash cancel. You don't understand why. Well, that's because there's a limit on how many times you can dash in a row, right? So I'd say after about 3 dash cancels, you want to jump cancel, right? And that really helps you out, especially if you're trying to beat things faster. You're cutting it close on the bis, and you're getting down to the last second. So you want to make sure you get that jump cancel on every 3 dashes. Yeah, just to be optimal when it comes to that, right? Not really a big deal, but if you're kind of close, that could be the difference in everything. Another thing I want to talk about too, that might be pretty big in the future. I think Hu Tao's gonna be killing it in Fontaine. Why do I say that? Well, I think that in Fontaine, right, the region of Hydro, right, we've been noticing that Hydro is taking quite a liking to HP. But we don't have any units that buff HP, right, except for Yelan, which I have C4 of. But unless you're a whale, you don't have access to that HP buffing mechanic. We only have EM buffers. That Hu Tao really loves right there. But she doesn't really go good with a lot of EM buffers anyway, so I think that when Fontaine comes, we're going to have different things that are going to buff HP in some way, shape, or form, because Hydro seems to be benefiting off of that so much. It only makes sense that because we have Ayato, Yelan, Kokomi, whoever else I'm forgetting right there, whose Hydro benefits off of this HP, right? And it seems to be a trend, and I feel like it's going to continue. Oh, Barbara too, right, sorry. I mean, granted, a lot of Hydro like to heal, so she doesn't like that, but I don't think they're all going to be healing. There probably might be somebody that's going to buff HP. And if somebody's buffs HP, then Hu Tao's going to love that. And she's going to love this HP generosity, all right, and come Fontaine. And she's going to be able to vaporize everything, right? So yeah, so you can have your double Hydro without Sheng Cho or something like that. Or if you don't have Yelan, there might be another way you can do your double Hydro and use your Sheng Cho with somebody else that might come out in Fontaine. So that's the thing. That's another thing that I really wanted to put out there, right? I'm not including it into the big facts because this is all speculation, but I'm just letting you guys know. I was right about Ye. You might be right about Hu Tao too. She might have a ball over there in Fontaine. So keep that in mind, all right? But those are things I did want to touch on, though. I hope the information that I gave you was very helpful. This is going to be a longer video, so I hope you guys, I hope you got something out of it. But Hu Tao deserves all the time in the world, all right?
And you will always be my queen.
But with that, I've talked enough, so I'm tired now. But if you like the video, definitely like to hit the like button if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you do like the content that I'm giving. As I said before, I have a goal right there, so if you guys can help me out with that, that'd be great. And definitely comment your thoughts down below. Anything that you think I missed when it came to Hu Tao that people aren't really talking about when it comes to terms of building her, did any of this information help you? Or if you want me to give any more information on Hu Tao, definitely feel free to ask as much questions as you like in the comments down below. But with that, I'll end it there. Legend out.